We all know, I think, from reading on our blog what Ayanaant means, it being the longest day. So today will be a long day, and we hope it will be packed full of learning. Coming to thought leadership, Vishal shared something very interesting with me, his take on thought leadership. So Vishal, please, I encourage you to share that with everybody.
Thanks, Ashima. When Vikas, I think, called me on 4th March, he said, Vishal, we are doing this outbound thought leadership meet. I said, what exactly is thought leadership? Who is a thought leader? That question kept ringing in my mind. And I went on to search some answers. And I tumbled upon this page from a book written by R. Gopalakrishnan of Tata Sons and Unilever, in which Gopalakrishnan discusses the 4 stages of a career of a leader. It's a leadership journey. That's in the simplistic format. It starts with a phase where delivery of results matters most. Leader's ability to accomplish the task and getting the work done from its team really takes the prime focus. So let me give you an example. If it's a sales manager who has a team reporting to him, the idea of that sales manager and the priority of the person is to get the results out of the team that is directly reporting to the person. So the focus is towards the task. In the second phase, what matters? Of course, accomplishment of task really matters. But what starts to matter more is the relationship and building agreeable relationship. This is a phase when a leader has the challenge not only to deliver results from his teams that are directly reporting, but also from people that are outside his protocol. So just to give an example, if there is a multinational company and there is a regional manager, a regional head, who has sales managers reporting to him directly, but the finance and the HR may be outside the realm, and that reports to corporate. So he has to influence by virtue of relation to get that work done, and may not report to them directly. Similarly, the regional head may also have the challenge to get the work done from people outside the organization, that is government authorities, agencies, and various other bodies. That's where relationship matters most. It becomes of paramount importance to get the work done. In the third phase, which is the most relevant phase for us today, leaders' ability to spot changes in the business environment and generate new ideas becomes very important. And it's not just generating new ideas, but ability to advocate those new ideas to people, ability to persuade others to debate on those ideas. That starts to matter a lot. And that, I think, is an evolution towards somebody who becomes a thought leader. At least I found that very, very profound explanation, and I thought I will share it with you. I think today is a day when this room is filled with people who are thought leaders in their own areas. Now, it depends on us today. How do we advocate our ideas that we have created over time with others and debate about it? So I think that's what we have gathered here today. We have a very exciting day ahead for us. We have 4 panel discussions. All panel discussions are moderated by the industry veterans. We have 6 speeches lined up for us. That brings us to the first panel discussion, which is moderated by one of the long-standing travel and tourism veteran for the last 30 years now. He, after being a professional and entrepreneur for the last 30 years, has scaled great heights. One has to be immensely proud about that achievement. Yet at the same time, somebody needs to be humble with that kind of achievement. And I think it's a difficult balance to maintain between being proud and being humble. At the same time, when I was learning about this person, I was just thinking to myself that, do I need to be a generalist or can I be a master? Either or. But I think in his case, he happens to achieve both. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about none other than our very own Mr. Gopinath Nair. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Gopinath Nair, who will be our moderator for cruise panel discussion.
Good morning. I can see a lot of happy faces here. And I want to ask you a question to start off this session. How many of you have been on a cruise? Please put up your hands. Quite a few happy cruisers here. But for those who haven't put up your hands, you're missing something really, really big, because cruising is one of the most exciting and most rewarding experiences in travel. And to me, it's the ultimate vacation. My first cruise, and I'm talking about not the Kumarakam or the Alapi backwater cruise, my first overseas outbound cruise was on a Royal Caribbean from Los Angeles to Baja, Mexico in 1998. And on that day, I fell in love with cruising. After that, it's been many years and many, many more cruise trips. But for all of you who travel so much, and I'm sure many of you are veterans in the trade here, and many of you are growing in the travel business, I'm sure you'll experience more and more cruising as you grow. And cruising to me is the ultimate vacation. And it's a huge, great business opportunity for you, because I was having a chat with a few of our panelists, and we were discussing the various industries in various parts of our industry and the kind of money that you can make. And from a 3% or a 0% on the airline ticket to a 7 or 8% on hotels, you're talking about anything between 15 and 20% in cruising. And it's a huge, great business opportunity for you. I'll also share with you some facts. Take a look at the number of passengers who enjoy cruising globally. You're talking about 20 million passengers across the world, of which the US contributes 16 million. So you're talking about 80% of cruising in the US and Canada, the North America market, and is expected to grow year on year. And compare that to India. Unfortunately for India, we do not have any qualified statistics, so we have taken a guesstimate. And what we'll find as far as India is concerned is about 100,000 passengers cruising out of India, expected to grow between 6 and 10%. So if you take a 20 million global number, we are talking about a speck on the whole thing. So what is the problem? What is the reason why Indian cruising has not really taken off? Just to take a look at the global itineraries and deployment, most of the action is in Europe, the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, Asia contributing about 3.4%, Australasia 5%, and other markets about 15.8%. So as the cruising evolves, I'm sure Asia will get a bigger share of this market as well. Some interesting facts: there are 55 members of Cruising Lines International Association, CLIA, and the latest member is Talk River Cruises. And there's a specialty cruise collection. And some of the new trends in the cruise industry are more and more global destinations than the traditional ones. Big brand entertainment. You're getting to see a lot more branded entertainment on board. Specialty dining outlets. Rapid innovation in guest experience areas. And to my friends from the panel, river cruising is the fastest growing segment as far as cruising is concerned. And you'll see a lot of technology being leveraged, not only for customer experience, but also for safety. And safety in cruising is one of the most critical aspects, as you would have seen last year. And you'll also see a lot of families and generations travel happening as we move forward. As far as travel agents are concerned, what are the trends? Over 68% of travel agents across the world believe that this year is going to be better than last. People are seeing shorter booking windows. So people are willing to book a little closer to the date of travel. There is still a lot of brand loyalty. So if you cruise with Royal Caribbean, you'll tend to cruise with them again. If you cruise with Princess, you'll tend to cruise with them again. And the top 3 decision factors is the distance to the home port. And when we discuss domestic cruising, this is going to be very, very critical. Price is significant, and onboard facilities. And as far as the industry is concerned, the 3 growth engines are weddings. We're going to see a lot more weddings on cruises, ethnic groups getting to travel, and honeymoon traffic. We are now going to come over to the expert panel to take up the cruising session. So we introduce Naresh Rawal. Please welcome Naresh. Vice President Sales, Star Cruises India, and many other regions. Nishith Saxena, please come on. Nishith really needs no introduction as far as cruising is concerned. He is Mr. Cruises. Welcome, Nishith. Ratna, Mrs. Ratna Chadha, 35 years of experience in the industry and the heart of Tyrant Travel Marketing. Welcome, Ratna. Sidhartha Roy, travel industry veteran, and now joined the cruising bandwagon. Welcome, Sidhartha. Sumit Banerji, veteran in the cruising industry. Welcome, Sumit. Morning. All of us understand that cruising presents a huge new opportunity for us, for the travel industry to make more money, to satisfy our customers. So there are a couple of questions that we're going to put before the panel, and we take up that as we move towards the panel discussion. The first part, and we will go through all the panel members, since we know that cruising offers a huge opportunity for us in India, we want to ask the panel, what is it that is stopping us from growing the cruise business? If you've seen the numbers, there are about 100,000 cruise passengers traveling from India compared to a 20 million number across the world. So what, in your words, are the reasons why cruising is not really taking off, and what can be done? So I'll start with Naresh to take that question, and then we'll move through the panel.
I think there are two aspects to it, Mr. Nair. One being, domestic being considered a little differently than outbound. Now, when you're talking about outbound per se, I think India has a huge population. Cruising is absolutely in a nascent stage. We just started experiencing the benefits of cruising over a land holiday. Now, having said that, I think all of us here have our own set of pie available with us, and I think we just need to do our bit of it to really promote the concept of cruising, and I think that's, we just need to do simple things. There's no point doing complicated things to really promote cruising, because we just very, very nascent in our own development as of now.
Nishith?
As far as cruising is concerned, slight disagreement here. We say that it is in a nascent stage. We have been seeing cruising in this market since 1994, thanks to Royal Caribbean. Think about it, what is keeping us back is, I think, that we have not done enough in terms of educating the customer, or the distribution, which is the trade partners, have not actually taken up cruising seriously. And I think that is one of the main issue here. Yes, we all, like for South Asia cruising, yes, Star is doing a great job. They are doing thousands and thousands of passengers. But when it comes to Western Hemisphere, we are talking about handful of passengers. And that is where we have to look at, sort of reinventing ourselves and maybe reaching out to the consumer more effectively, because ultimately they are the decision makers. And yes, the distribution can facilitate whatever needs to be done in terms of, handling their bookings and things. That's what I think.
I have been on the buying end of cruises so far, and this assignment finds me on the selling end. I think Nishith has just said what I was wanting to say, and that is the distribution mechanism needs to alter. In an environment where airlines have virtually withdrawn their commissions, here is value that you can bring to your customer by altering the price of the ticket. And if you give a whole package tourism, particularly in cruising, you're bringing a lot more delight and a lot more excitement to a customer. And if the tourism selling community, which is the travel agents and the travel operators, if they're looking for additional income sources, I think this is a great revenue stream. I can speak for River Cruising, the company that I represent in particular. Commissions can go as far as close to 30%. And those online operators who are around here in this hall, please understand that if you are incentivizing across your desks, there are incentive points as well. So I think we need to put the agenda of cruising high up on your selling agenda. That's what we are missing at the moment. We find it very easy to sell a tour to Southeast Asia. That happens almost naturally. But I think let's alter the agenda. That's what I need to say. Thanks.
Ratna?
Just taking up from what my colleague said, there are 3 points that I would just like to add. Number one, cruise product, we must understand, is not a commodity. It's not a product. In fact, I've used the wrong word. It shouldn't be a product. It's an experience. And I think I speak for maybe all my panelists here, that we are not in the business of selling a product. We are in the business of allowing passengers to experience the world differently. We've got to change our mindsets, we've got to change the way we think, and then only can we pass this on to the community at large. That's number one. Number two, 2/3 of the world is filled with water. So if you haven't cruised, then what the hell were you doing? I mean, when Gopi asked how many people have experienced cruising, there are very few hands that went up, really. So we need to first educate ourselves, because we must understand that when we are selling, in fact, again, selling is the wrong word. A cruise is an experience, cannot be sold. It is marketed. And I don't think we are doing a good job at marketing. That's and when I say I mean all of us collectively here, including our trade channel partners. The other aspect is that we need to first educate ourselves. We, as representatives here of various cruise lines, we are dependent on our trade partners to market the product. We must understand that we are first, actually, in a manner of speaking, selling ourselves, because the guest is going to experience get the experience much later. So we have to first sell ourselves, and he's actually buying our confidence and our knowledge. We need to educate ourselves. We are way behind. So education, marketing, and really changing our mindsets are the 3 important things in my perception. The other thing, of course, to be fair to India, yes, we have a huge potential, but hitherto, except for Star in Asia, we haven't had a brand that was in our backyard, so to speak. But North America, you can just take a car, walk in, you park your car, and you get onto a product. You get onto the cruise. It hasn't been easy for us. We haven't scratched the tip of the iceberg. It's nascent, and we've got a long way to go. But believe you me, collectively, if we set our minds to it, we can achieve the goals, and we'll probably supersede the North Americas and Europe, because it's virtually saturated, cruising virtually saturated in those markets. And there is a whole new opportunity here. Let's grab it. Thank you.
Sumit?
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, that's the best part of being beside Ratna, She's actually said everything, more or less. Few points just as a synopsis of what she explained right now. I believe whoever you are, like right now, we all are sitting to discuss about how to increase a cruise business. And I believe if you are attending this seminar, you are very, very passionate in building up the business with us. So if you believe that there is a real potential in this business for you, that means create a cruise tourism vertical. 2 things: create your quality manpower and take an initiative on developing knowledge. And whatever the rest Ratna has said, it's more or less sums up everything. At the same time, I would also like to tell you, when I say about knowledge, go or think beyond what we coin as a sea cruising. When we talk today, cruise vacation, we generally totally say anything about sea cruising. We do not say anything about any other type of cruising. In the world today, there is one more form of cruising called river cruising. right? So let's bifurcate two forms of cruising, sea cruising, river cruising. Both the two forms have three operators operating in three segments of business, like mass, premium, and luxury. Understand that, understand the forms, understand the brands, the segments. I'm sure it's going to increase the pie anyway. Thank you.
To take up on the points that our esteemed panelists raised, I think the next critical part in order to grow our cruise business is to ensure that we build a huge team of cruise professionals in the country. Because unless the industry takes it up on its own, and until the travel agency managers and owners realize that cruising is going to be one of their big chunks of business, it's not going to survive and grow. So it's very, very critical that we grow dedicated, exclusive, specialized cruise professionals in the country. And how do we do that? That's the next question to the panel. We start with Sumit now. How do we build a team of dedicated cruise professionals? What can we do to increase their knowledge, to expose them to cruising? And how do we incentivize and motivate and retain such professionals?
Why not do a very basic thing? Create a common pool for knowledge and training. That's a very basic fundamental thing where all the stakeholders can come together, create such a pool. The cruise partners do all their initiatives to enrich knowledge in the pool, to do developments. The enrolled trade partners use those pools on a timely manner to educate, to cultivate more cruise counselors. I think that's a very basic start that we can think of it right now.
Yes, education is a major part, but in the North Americas, there is an association which is called CLIA, which Gopinath alluded to earlier. I think we need to form an association here of all the equity stakeholders so that collectively we can take this forward. It's not just education, there is a lot more that goes into the basket. And, we can list these points and start with at least having an association where we can talk to the government collectively, because I think the time has come now for our Indian passengers to experience to get a first-hand experience with a ship in our backyard. And that can only happen if we work collectively as a team. So more and more people get into, once they see the product, there'll be more marketing, there'll be more awareness, it'll be good for the industry because you have something to sell which is close by, and India has such a vast and beautiful coast which is absolutely untapped at the moment. We keep getting bogged down with infrastructure and such like investments, but let me tell you, the world over, the largest ports today have beautiful marquees that act as cruise ports. You don't need that infrastructure, we just need the will to go ahead.
Gopi, your question is open to interpretation. In fact, what I would like to add to what Ratna said is that if there is an association piggybacking with that as the hook, most of the institutes of management have MDPs and executive development programs regularly. Why can't the association maybe once every quarter arrange a few executive development programs with cruise as the subject for the travel community and have them in Mumbai and New Delhi to begin with, and then spread them around across the country? I suppose that will make a lot of difference in taking on the cudgels.
It's a great point, Sidhartha. I think Nishith?
I look at things little simplistically. What is it that actually motivates people? All of us are agency owners or business owners, and I think the greatest motivation is money. And I think when you're looking at things in terms of creating a pool or creating cruise professionals all across the country, I think it has to start from the top. If the agency owners seriously takes a note of cruising, of cruising as a serious business, then they will get their people trained and do things accordingly. What happens, what we see is that whenever there's a cruise seminar or a roadshow that we guys organize, people who attend the cruise sessions are not the agency owners but the frontliners. And 9 out of 10, when you look at the consumer's buying behavior, the passenger wants to talk to the agency owner when it comes to selling a cruise or buying a cruise. And that is where the ownership lacks. So what is happening is that till the time the agency owners get serious about this business, no amount of association or no amount of effort is going to work. We have seen that across the country, the agencies where the agency owners have taken a serious note about this business, there the business has grown up tremendously, and they are they are making money. And then from there, people leave and join other companies, and from there, there the cruise business also grows. So what I'm saying is that, yes, it is important for us to collectively form an association, do all kinds of things, but who are we talking about? We are talking about a large diaspora of travel agencies across the country who have to seriously look at cruising as a business opportunity. Unless that is going to happen, I don't think any effort is going to make any difference.
I think just about a couple of months back, there was an association in Singapore who was probably talking to myself and Nishith for, getting the travel trade in India together. They were talking about doing seminars in Mumbai and Delhi. But I think over the line somewhere it's got lost somewhere. I haven't heard from, but I really haven't got too much of communication back from them. So while that's happening, I think what's also critical, which I think most of us have already spoken about. I think we have programs like you have a Swiss program, you have an Aussie specialist. Cruising is across the world, so you really can't have. So I think it's very critical for all of us as members of the cruising industry to get together and have a cruise development or a specialist kind of a program, which is not specific to a brand, but it's as a concept.
That's a very, very good point, Naresh. As Ratna alluded to the US market, that people can drive in and take a cruise from the nearest available port, I think for cruising to explode in India, and I mean explode in the positive sense, we need to have domestic cruising in the Indian waters. And how do we take that? That requires government intervention, it requires a whole lot of industry intervention. So I want to start with Sidhartha and then go around. To understand from you, the panel members, how do we think that we as industry leaders can play a key role in getting domestic cruise onto our Indian shores, which is very, very vital for the growth of cruising across in the market?
In the first place, we are holding the distribution mechanism responsible for the average Indian being underexposed to cruising. I think there is a lot that can be done within the domestic environment. I'm not sure what is discussed in the IATO formats or how much the government is doing, but from the region that I come, the eastern region, the Hooghly has existed for many, many years, and some of the boats that plied were an apology. They're nowhere near international standards. And what is astounding is right next to our neighbor Myanmar, which has just been democratized, has some great sailings on the river Irrawaddy. We need to learn what's happening across in Russia, in China. Sumit represents a sailing in China Century Cruises. Now, he will bear me out that on the Yangtze River, it's a very, very busy cruising sector. So I don't think that in many ways, both the travel tourism community and the government needs to look at this as both a domestic tourism format and an inbound. Sumit was highlighting for us that some inbound business is happening in the East, Assam as well. But I don't think enough has been done. We are lacking civility, and that particularly is the reason why the average Indian customer is underexposed to world cruising. Thanks.
What I'd like to say is that we need to understand that in order for us to allow our people and for us to, as service providers, for us to actually cater to their dreams, to their aspirations, we need to have a product that is world class in our domain. You cannot, as Sidhartha says, that have slipshod kind of equipment flying around and expect people to go on board, because the Indian is not, you can't hoodwink us as peoples. We need the international experience. We need to have the best that we have, and with our needs met, that is food and entertainment and all of that. For us to be able to bring an international product or an international ship into our Indian backwaters, we need the government to clear some of the policies. I think some of us have had some very, very debilitating experience with the ships coming in and pulling out, with companies coming in and pulling out. No company will invest their equipment in our domain if this is going to happen. So we need to, again, as I said, collectively work together towards allowing international, creating the ambience and allowing international companies to come and invest in our country. Only when that happens will, I think, everything emanate from that point.
Am I correct to understand, Gopi, that your slide right now that's up, it's primarily based on ship deployment, right? And it's not based on...
And number of passengers.
Okay. If it's a ship deployment, so you can see very clearly how many ships are plying where in the world today. So it's a very clear indication where the market is moving. But let me tell you, right now, the way Asia is shaping up, operators are looking into Asia. And cruise lines actually deploy or do their planning of deployments around 3 years before deployment, generally. I'm giving an average time frame. So they announce deployment maybe 1.5 years, 2 years before. But the research starts. And today, what we see now, Asia is in their priority list. Now, in Asia, who's benefited the most? That's China. That's China. And you see why. There have been lot of push from the government, from the local investors, along with, in conjunction with the cruise lines. So you can see most of deployments happening in China for Asia. Now, where is India lacking? We have had enough discussion with the governments. There have been a lot of cruise tourism seminars, very serious issues discussed. Come out of your discussion room, you say bye-bye and you forget about it. So my only request to the government is, enough talk done, put things in action, and create a single member committee who can do the liaison work for any cruise line, with the tourism ministry, with the shipping ministry, with the finance ministry, whatever, and don't let the cruise line run around like anything. So that's really, really crazy. And I would also like to reiterate the fact the cruise lines should also start strategizing placing a ship or home porting a ship in India, except Mumbai. I know commercially Mumbai is the best location right now, but there have been a lot of bottlenecks, and I believe, that's my personal opinion, these bottlenecks are not so easy to move it out.
I think our friend Keki here has been a part of immense initiatives being taken by him to get any cruise brand cruise out of India. I think more than anything else, while we can talk about lack of infrastructure, port facilities or whatever, I think as Ratna said earlier, we don't really need a swanky looking port. We don't need that. You can actually tender from a ship and get into, as long as the facilities are right. But I think more than anything of those sorts, what's required is the mindset to have a ship in India. And to have a mindset, we need to look at a bigger picture, because a cruise ship, when it comes in, it's not just the company who's making money out of the operation. I think it needs to look at, you're going to feed in probably 1,500 or 2,000 people every single day, 4 to 5 times. The food needs to be picked up locally. The ship runs on fuel. You need fuel. She's a machinery. She needs repair and maintenance. There's employment opportunities. Tourism coming in, hotels being used, taxis being used, local shopping happening. So I think it needs to be looked at a much bigger picture than a narrow down image of just, looking at from that particular brand.
I think, Gopi, your question was pertaining to the domestic cruising. And when you talk about cruising, I would ideally like to split this into outbound cruising, where most of us are the experts here. Then we have the domestic cruising, inbound cruising, where the ship touches Indian ports and then on its way on a world cruise, something like that. And then we have the two critical aspects. One is the domestic cruising, which is again split into two: river cruising and the coastal cruising. Now, river cruising is, I think, we don't take care of our rivers. What we will do about the river cruising, I really don't know. I don't have very high hopes for that. But the only place where we can actually put something here is maybe coastal cruising, where ships are going from Indian ports, one Indian ports to another, and that is the only area where we see where we can actually sort of excel. River cruising, if it happens, well and good. But I think what is lacking in the last 15 years, what we have seen is that there is a lack of government will. They don't have the expertise to plan 14, 15 years or 20 years ahead. They just plan something, put a ship or give permissions, and after that they create problems for the cruise operators. It doesn't work like that. If they do not have the expertise, they need to consult people. If they do not have the expertise, they need to get, like in all the other segments, they are seeking help from the foreign investors or others. So they should approach the people who are experts in that business and get their opinion and their whatever inputs that are required to do things properly rather than doing a shoddy job. And I think that has been the biggest drawback in our developing the domestic cruise circuit as such.
Thank you, Nishith, and the other esteemed panelists. As we wind up this session, I would like to invite Mr. Master to come in and give us his observation.
Has said that, we have not done much. And to a certain extent, yes, we can say we are to blame. To blame in the sense that we have not pushed the authorities, that we should have done. There are various seminars, there are various meetings, various conventions that, the ministries, shipping, tourism, finance has set up. We meet them and we are talking about promoting cruise tourism. We meet at the end of the day, then we go back and, nothing has really come about it. So what we need to do is have a little more concerted effort and try and get, some more action, some more involvement from the powers that be, and try to improve the conditions that we have in, the various ports in India. Our good friend Naresh has mentioned about, the ships which had come, the Superstar Libra. They did come, and yes, a lot of promises were made to Star Cruises, for them to set up shop in India. They put in a lot of effort, and they were promised the cruise terminal, and having, spent a lot of money. I mean, Star Cruises invested quite a bit. And one fine day, or more often than not, they were put on the commercial cargo berth. And it was very, very difficult for the passengers to, embark, disembark, and various other, baggage handling and the provisioning and, fuel and everything to be done in 6 hours from a commercial berth, which was just not geared up to handle a passenger ship. We have the same thing in other Indian ports, whether you go to Mangalore, you go to Goa. Of course, Goa has now set up a new terminal, at the breakwater, so that is good. But at Mumbai, where we do have a good passenger terminal, we find that, more often than not, commercial ships are berthed over there, and a passenger ship has to go to another commercial berth because of compulsions of, the port revenue. We need to change that. We have to, make an association, try and, figure out a way where we can have regular interactions with the ministries, whether it is shipping or tourism or finance or immigration, and try and streamline the various, procedures. I mean, talking of immigration, for example, you have, what is called a group landing permit, which should be given to passengers who arrive without a visa. There are various reasons why, passengers cannot, obtain a visa, maybe because they have done their booking at the last minute, or due to the multiple countries that the ship calls, they are unable to obtain an Indian visa. So, a group landing permit was introduced. Now, while the same has been successfully implemented in Cochin, to a certain extent, maybe in Goa, but at Mumbai and other ports, we are just not able to get a group landing permit. Now, immigration is a national, sort of, regulation. So you cannot have different, sort of interpretations of the immigration regulations at different ports. It has to be universal as far as Indian ports is concerned. We have been taking this up periodically with the various, sort of government and immigration authorities, whether in Delhi or in Mumbai. But, it's more or less just lip service and nothing more has come, from them. Similarly, you can have, those other small things like customs and the port authorities, and there are always impediments to the cruise, sort of industry, as and when the cruise ships call at Indian ports. Periodically, when the ports feel that, the business is down, they call for a, sort of a seminar and trying to, sort of promote the cruise tourism. But at the end of the day, again, when you walk out after a month or so, you're back to square one. Not much has been done. And we need to, sort of really work on these things. I mean, cruising in India has great potential. As, the panelists have mentioned, North America is saturated. Europe is more or less saturated. The next saturation point to be reached is, Southeast Asia. South Asian region is the most important, sort of growing region. All the cruise lines, that we represent, and we represent about 95% of them as ship agents, they have always been speaking about the various problems that they have been facing at Indian ports. The passengers have lovely memories of, the calls to India, but the ships are absolutely miserable when they come over here, because on a regular basis, the, sort of the regulations change over here. And if, the same ship has arrived 3 months ago, there were a different set of requirements. When they come again, they have a different set of requirements. I think we need to have a uniform kind of a policy and, try and promote this cruise tourism on a regular and a proper basis. For that, I think we need to set up some kind of an association, either of the tour operators, the shipping lines, and everyone concerned, and try and evolve a sort of a consensus where we meet the various ministries on a regular basis, maybe 2-3 times in a year, and take it up from sort of the various discussions that we've had in the past and what has been done in the interim. We need to work on that.
Bring up one more subject which is very critical, because ultimately until you have customers, passengers on board, there's no business. So I think marketing and PR play a very, very key role to bring awareness of the industry. While education and of counselors would go a great deal in actually providing the inputs to the customer, it's critical that there's awareness on a industry-wide basis that is brought out. So I want to start with Naresh. How do we ensure that once we have a team in place or an association or whatever, how do we ensure that there's industry-wide marketing rather than just cruise line-wide marketing? How do we ensure that there is more awareness being built through PR, for example?
Spending money in terms of above the line or do whatever we want, that's not going to really get in the right kind of results that we really look out for. I think first of all, even before you reach the consumer, there has to be a buy-in from the travel trade that yes, cruising is profitable. It is an experience that can be sold to their passengers. I think once you have that, it's going to drill down to the consumers as well. So that's what I said earlier as well. We don't need to do really complicated stuff. Do the simple things, but do it the right way. That's all.
I think it's a matter of push and pull. While we continue to educate the travel trade and do our bit, we need to also reach out to the consumer to create the brand awareness, because what is happening is that word has become very small with internet, and the first person who knows that he is going for a cruise is the passenger. And the first thing he does is, before calling up the travel agent, is to get onto the net and punch in those keywords. So when he does those keywords, there should be some contacts of our agencies which are showing that they do cruises instead of cruise.com only or lastminutecruises.com only. So there should be Indian agencies which should pop up there. So there is a awareness which needs to be created about the brands, and there is a fulfillment which has to be done through the travel trade. It's a complementary thing.
I think, Gopi, we just spoke about a while ago about the Cruise Professionals Association or whatever. I've been in the advertising industry for some time, and apart from the various city chapters of the advertising clubs, there is a body called the Advertising Professionals Association. So now, I would imagine that let's start there. Let's make a beginning there. We can deliberate here and then go out of this hall and forget about it. But let's create that association. Let's pilot. Number one is the travel community education. And thinking outlandish, name one day a cruise day in India, take out a newspaper supplement where all cruise companies pool in, and get a PR agency to do a little bit of noise. Because ultimately, the share of voice is going to turn into market share. I think let's make this into a wholesome activity and not just depend on the travel community for gatherings as such, or even the trade fairs. Trade fairs come and go, and I think everybody in this country is into a trade fair business. Getting there and putting out a booth is getting nowhere. So let's take it up. Let's take up the cudgels on our own. You mentioned it to me on telephone as well. Let's create an association and pilot it from there. We can pool our ideas together and thought processes and take it from there. Thanks.
Yeah, as I said, that a cruise experience is not sold, it's marketed. So clearly, we need to get into that marketing mode. And I think it's, as service providers, it's little unfair for us to put everything on the travel community, on the travel trade. Because if we, as service providers, can't, educate and bring that marketing bucks to get our share, I think it's a little unfair for us to expect the travel industry to do so. So we, and the other thing I would say is that let's market the cruise concept again. Let's go back to basics when we started off in 1993, where we actually taught or not taught, we brought cruising into the domain here in India and actually had to tell the people what is a cruise, how to spell the word. We started from there. Let's go back there collectively. And like Sidhartha said, that, through the association, all of us first expand the market. You can only have a market share if there is a market. There is no market today. I mean, 100,000 people is not a market. So let's try and start from the basics, have a base where we talk about cruising so that all stakeholders get their share of it. The brands come much later. We are, let's not jump the gun. Let's not talk about brands at this moment. Because if collectively we expand the cruise market, like I said, it'll help everybody. And the only way to do it is to have it under one umbrella, because nobody here at this table has the money or the wherewithal to do it alone. And I think the travel industry needs to be part of this.
Well, I think all the four panelists have summed up whatever I was planning to say. So, not much, but only that I would really wish that the association, the forming of association comes up very fast. No talk, only action. Thank you.
Can we have questions from the audience, please?
Listening to you all, what we see that, airlines had a similar problem. Open skies was brought up when a lot of noise was made by the travel trade. And we had a very concentrated approach to the Ministry of Tourism as well as to the civil aviation. And in the process that we could succeed in getting the open skies policy, and we had more airlines coming into India. So likewise, what you've been deliberating and discussing, that the cruises should come to India, the government of India realizes this. This matter was brought up 10 years back when the Port Trust of India was thinking about it, and they tried to do something. I think it's a good idea that you should have an association, have a Secretary General, who's not part of you, but he is employed by you, who should be liaising with the government on 365 days, right? And talking to various ministries on the issues which you have, in terms of immigration, in terms of, ports. And some of these state governments will be very happy and delighted if they understand the economics of it. That how much benefit that state will get in terms of, taxes, in terms of, employment. A lot could be achieved. And Gujarat is one case. Gujarat is developing 6 or 7 ports. So it is right time to speak to the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And likewise, we find that in Chennai also, right? If we speak to those port trusts, if Mumbai has a problem, so I'm sure you can succeed. Wish you all the best.
Two things. One, adding to what was just said. Of course, forming an association will be a very good idea. An outbound tour operator association is willing to work with you together on that one. Marriages don't happen instantly, they happen after a courtship. So taking them there and showing them the facilities that are available is really going to make a difference, because most of the government officers who take decisions on these matters, they do not even know what's available. So that will be a very good idea, number one. Coming to the marketing, I believe that, there's a very good example here in Delhi. We have made wonderful malls here. We've got malls even in Faridabad and in Gurgaon and other places where there are no footfalls. People have invested their money, but they're not getting people over there. Most of the travel outbound tour operators are ready to sell. And most of the tour operators now have knowledge of marketing cruises. But footfall has to happen. I think if you form an association and think about something where we actually reach people and the shops are ready to sell, footfall happens, things will gear up. My question to you is, are you all willing to invest in advertising or other medias or whatever of marketing, that footfall happens and the selling starts?
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think I'll just take the lead because I'm a woman, that's it. There's no science to that. But as I said, that we individually are spending on our marketing our brands. I think that's not the answer to the question, and I just evoked on that topic to say that if collectively we under one umbrella put our minds together and our monies and our energies and expend the total strength that we have in developing the cruise market, then all stakeholders will benefit. No one person can do this on their own. India is too large a market. I mean, each little pocket, each little state is a country on its own. And the countries outside of, and I speak for my colleagues who, like me, are representatives of my brand, of the brand that I represent, they are doing minuscule numbers of people because they are such a small country. We have the potential here. The thing is that we have to have the will to work collectively. I've been in the trade for 35 years, as you saw, and I have seen this from the hotels to tour operators to inbound to outbound. There is too much polarization. We as a country and peoples do not or have not understood the strength in working collectively. I mean, why do you need 2 associations in the travel industry? Explain. I mean, why does this happen? And why does it happen here? Okay, so we are talking, we are starting from scratch. All of us are learning like you people. Yes, we have been representing the cruise lines for a number of years, but that doesn't make us any wiser. It's not as if we have wisdom flowing out of our ears. We have to work collectively with our partners, and in order for us to do that, we've got to come under one umbrella, whatever it is. I mean, we are saying association because of lack of a better word, but it could be just a committee. Where we invite or we have stakeholders participating. We are not inviting anyone. We are not the proprietors of ideas and whatever. We need to work collectively. Whether it's technology, whether it's our travel partners, whether it's the government, whether it's government here. Good morning. The government, whether it's the port agents, whoever it is. And just alluding to Mr. Bhandari's point and what you said, Goa today, they've got a new port, they are very anxious. Kochi has got a super facility. But unfortunately for us, we cannot work in isolation. India is one country. We cannot work with a Goa or a Kochi alone. We need the whole gamut coming together. And as I said, the potential is vast. Indians would love to cruise and would have the aspiration like anyone else in the world. Why are we not catering to that aspiration? And look at the multiplier effect on the like Naresh just said, on the your employment, inbound tourism, the hotels benefit, tour operators benefit, shops benefit. We had a ship, the largest ship in Asia, in Goa recently. People took a charter flight, flew into Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, and then joined the ship in Kochi. Even though we were not picking up passengers from an Indian port for technical reasons, the industry benefited. So let us come together as a whole. That's what I'm saying. It cannot work piecemeal.
One small observation, and it's got nothing to do with associations or thing. It's just a marketing and perception. Have you ever wondered where we have gone wrong in marketing cruises in India? You open any cruise brochure and you will see only old people going on cruises. The reason Star Cruise was successful because they have been selling cruise as a family and a fun destination. I think where, you pick up, that was the perception I had, that only old people travel on cruise. When I first went to sell a cruise, I think you all need to revamp the whole brochure, the look of it, and you can customize it for India, because the people who want to travel are the generation who is like in their 30s and 40s. So I guess that can be one aspect that needs to be changed as well.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, even I want to answer that.
was wrong in older people cruising. It's like cruising when you talk about longer duration cruises where actually the cruise company makes money. Cruise companies don't make money in the short duration cruises, right? Naresh should vouch for that. So, no. Allow me to finish. Basically what happens is that who are the people who can travel longer distance, can spend longer duration on the cruise? Families, yes, but people who have time and people who have money. And who are the people who have time as well as money? Are the people who are actually, in the bigger sense of the term, people who are in, who have set up their businesses, who have handed it over to the next generation and others. Yes, there is a market there are different niches. We all have to know what we are catering to. On Princess, the average age is, 45 plus. Fine. So we are catering to that. Then there would be other cruise lines which are catering to people who are younger generation. Fine. So all we are saying is we have to know our niches and market accordingly. It doesn't, tomorrow if you're looking at river cruising, if you think you're going to put a family of 4 on a 16-day cruise, on a river cruise, they're going to get bored. Ratna.
Thank you, Nishith. I think
I just want to add to that quickly that we haven't even started marketing yet. To answer your question, very simply, here we've just been trying to create our own little niches, and that's not growing a market, and that's not expanding, and that's not creating a market by any standards.
Basically for the corporate side,
Forget segmentation. Let's not get into segmentation. Let us first try and create the market. How can you create a segment when you don't even have a market?
Thank you, everyone. I think we've actually exceeded time. We'd like to thank esteemed panelists and Keki, the observer, for a fantastic session on cruising. I think this is going to be the harbinger of better days for all of us in the travel, tourism, and cruising industry. So I'd like to hand over a token to each of our panelists. Naresh.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.